Hello, and welcome to this channel and to this comprehensive Java Spring Boot series. My name is Gustav Ufusu, your tutor for this Java Spring Boot series. The aim of this series is to equip Java developers with practical, industry-relevant Spring Boot skills, to deliver hands-on development experience through real-world applications, to progressively build foundational to advanced Spring Boot concepts, and to enable learners to build professional, scalable, maintainable, and enterprise-ready applications. Now, who is this tutorial series for? This series is for Java developers with foundational knowledge seeking to deepen Spring Boot expertise, developers familiar with basic Java and Spring concepts, and then learners aiming to master Spring Boot's powerful features for production quality applications. Now, what are the prerequisites of this series? One, we have the core Java fundamentals. You must know the object-oriented programming concepts, classes, inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation. You must also know Java 8 and above features, including lambda expressions and streams. You must know the collections framework. You must know how to handle exceptions, and then basic multi-threading concepts. The next is web development basics. You must know HTTP fundamentals and how web requests work. Basic servlet knowledge. It is helpful but not totally mandatory. Understanding of APIs and then REST concepts. And then basic database concepts and SQL. And then 3, you should know the build tools available. Maven or Gradle basics for dependency management. In this series, we will make use of Maven build tool. And then you should also understand project structure and then configuration. Now, this series is in 4 phases. Phase 1 is where we build the foundations of Spring Boot. Then phase 2, database integration. Then we go to phase 3, we look at some advanced features. And then to the final phase, phase 4, where we look at the production and deployment of Spring Boot applications. So this will be the first episode of our comprehensive Spring Boot tutorial series. I'm excited to guide you through this 30 episode journey that will take you from a complete Spring Boot beginner to someone who can build production ready applications. Now, in today's episode, we are starting with the fundamentals, understanding what Spring Boot is, why it is revolutionary for Java development, and getting your development environment set up properly. By the end of this section, you will have created your first Spring Boot application and understood the core concepts that make Spring Boot so powerful. So what will we learn today? We will learn what Spring Boot is and why it matters in modern Java development, the key differences between traditional Spring framework and Spring Boot, how to set up your development environment with the latest tools, creating your first Spring Boot project using Spring Initializer, understanding Spring Boot's convention over configuration philosophies, the magic behind auto configuration, navigating a Spring Boot project structure, and then running your first Hello World application. Now, what is Spring Boot? Spring Boot is a powerful framework that sits on top of the traditional Spring framework, designed to simplify the bootstrap and development of new Spring applications. Think of it as a Spring framework with superpowers. It takes all the complexity and boilerplate code that traditionally came with Spring and then handles it automatically. Some key Spring Boot advantages. Convention over configuration. This is, instead of writing extensive XML configurations, Spring Boot provides sensible defaults. Then we have auto configuration. Spring Boot automatically configures the application based on dependencies you add. Embedded servers. So there is no need to deploy WAR files to external servers. You have it embedded in your application. Then production ready features. We have built-in health checks, metrics, and monitoring to help your application. Microservice ready. This is perfect for building scalable distributed applications. Now, let's look at Spring framework versus the Spring Boot. let me explain this with a simple analogy. So if Spring Framework is like building a house from scratch, you need to handle the foundation, the plumbing, and electrical works, and what have you. Then Spring Boot is like buying a pre-configured smart home where most of the complex setup is already done for you. So what are the differences? So for the traditional Spring Framework, it requires extensive XML or Java configuration, manual dependency management, external server deployment needed, and then lots of boilerplate code. But for Spring Boot, we have minimal configuration required, automatic dependency resolution, embedded server is included, and it focuses on business logic, not the setup. Let's look at the auto configuration magic we talked about. So Spring Boot's auto configuration is like having an intelligent assistant that looks at your project dependencies and automatically sets up the most common configuration. So for example, it adds a database dependency, so Spring automatically configures a data source. And then web dependency. Spring Boot will set up an embedded Tomcat server. When you add the JPA dependency, Spring Boot configures entity management and transaction management. So enough of the talk. Let's jump right into live coding our Hello app and setting up our Spring Boot development. So now, what are the prerequisites we need, or things we need, tools we need for our development environment? So we need Java JDK. So you can go to this website, oracle.com, to download the JDK. So there are a lot of JDKs when you go to the download section. So as we'll be using Java version 21 for this application for its latest features and its stable version. So you can download that from here. You can come down here and download the JDK. Now, we also need an IDE. We have IntelliJ, we have Eclipse, we have VS Code. Any of them can work, but then IntelliJ is highly recommended for Java application or specifically Spring Boot applications. So you can just come to this page, jetbrains.com/IDE, and then click on download, and then you can download it and then set it up. And then we'll be using Maven for this project, as I already said. Now, so after downloading the JDK and installing it, you can check to see if your installation worked properly by typing Java version, then press enter, and you will see Java version 21. Or you can do Java C version, then you still get a 21.0.8. So this will ensure that your JDK has been installed successfully and added to it the path successfully. So now let's go on to create our first Spring Boot application. Now, we will use Spring Initializer, which is the official project generator for Spring Boot applications. So we navigate to start.spring.io. This is the official website, like I said. Now let's configure our project settings. So I said we'll use Maven, so Maven, and then Java. And then for the Spring Boot version, you select the latest version. And our latest version here is 3.5.4. Then we fill in the metadata. So for our group, we'll say com.springboot.tutorial. Then we'll give the artifact hello world app. So the name also be hello world app. Then let's give a valid description. So my first Spring Boot application. Then the package will be com.springboot.tutorial.hello world. So let's make this hello world app. Yes. And then the packaging will be jar. We'll be using jar. And then the Java version, I said 21. So choose Java version 21. Okay. So now let's add our first project dependency. So we click on add dependency, and then we type here web. So this will help us build web application, including RESTful applications using Spring MVC. And I also said it will automatically add the Tomcat as our default embedded server. So we click on it and then we get this here. So now we click on generate to generate our application. So now we find a location where to save the application. So here, and then I'll click on save. Okay, so it is done. Then we close this. So you go look for where you saved it. So I saved it here. So now we'll extract the application and then open it in IntelliJ so that we'll look at the structure of the application. Okay, so let me extract. Okay, so we close this, open IntelliJ. So in our IDE, we click on open. Then we navigate to where we saved our application. So now wait for the application to load properly. Alright, so our application has finished loading. Then we'll look at the structure of the application. So in here we have the SRC folder. When we expand, we have the main, then you have the test. So this contains test files. This contains our main files. So in here we have Java and then Spring resources. We have resources for the application. So when we expand the resources, we get static folder, a templates folder, and then an application.properties folder where we'll configure some stuffs in the application. We'll look at that later on. Let's look at the Java side. And then this is our package that we had when we created the application. Alright. And then the hello world application. Now, we have a pom.xml file which contains the Maven configuration with Spring Boot dependencies. Then the hello world that we saw is the main application class. Then the application.properties. So this is the configuration file for our application. Then the static folder contains static web resources like the CSS, JavaScript, and then image files. Then the templates. We know the template files are for files for server-side rendering. Now let's check the pom.xml file. Now looking at the generated pom.xml file, we have the Spring Boot starter parent dependency. Yeah, so this provides dependency management for the application. And then we have the starter web dependency, which includes Tomcat, Spring MVC, and then JSON processing. And then we have the Spring Boot Maven plugin, which enables running the application with Maven Spring Boot run. So now let's understand, or let's examine the auto-generated main class. So as you can see, we have Spring Boot application annotation hello world class. It has a main method which runs our hello world application. Now let's look at a breakdown of the Spring Boot application annotation. Now this annotation is actually a combination of three annotations. One, the configuration annotation. This indicates that the class provides configuration. Then two, enable auto configuration. So this annotation enables Spring Boot's auto configuration. And then we finally have the component scan, which enables component scanning in the current package and then sub packages. So looking at all this, our application is ready to work. So now let's create a simple REST controller to display our hello world messages. So in our package, we right click on the package. Then we create a new package. We name it controller. And then inside our controller, create a new Java class. And then we name it hello world controller. Okay, so this is our first hello world application. So in here, the first thing we do is to add our @rest controller annotation. So @rest controller. So this will help us create our REST endpoints. So the first method, hello world method. So define the method public string hello world. Then return hello spring boot world. Yeah. And then to turn this into an endpoint, we just add the annotation at get mapping and then put here slash. So this is our hello world method. So the at rest controller. So this combines the at controller annotation and then the at response body annotation. We'll look at them in a later video. Then the at get mapping annotation. Then this maps HTTP get requests to handler methods. Then the return values are automatically converted to JSON because of our REST controller annotation. So let's test this application and see. So using the IDE, we can right click on the main class and then we'll click on run hello world application. Or we can click on run here in the upper section. So this is building application and then yeah, so our application is finally up and running. So we should try and understand the startup logs. So we should pay attention to this key logs. This one here saying Tomcat initialized with port 8080. So this is the initial port number, and then starting service Tomcat, starting servlet engine, and then come down here to started hello world application in 4.392 seconds. So if you see all this, then you know our application is running successfully. So we can run this application. So let me terminate this. So we can run this application another way using the terminal. So we right click here, we go to open in terminal. So in here, you just type mvn springboot run. So now that our application has started, let's test the endpoint. So we open our browser and then we type http localhost and then port number 8080 and press enter. So as you can see, we have hello spring boot world, which is exactly what we typed in our endpoint. Alright, so let's go back and then add a few more endpoints. So let me minimize this. Then in here, get mapping. Then let's add a greeting. So /greet. So public string greet user. Then return welcome to your first Spring Boot application. So I'm using the autocomplete function of IntelliJ. Now let's add one more at get mapping, and then the /info. So public string application info, and this returns this is episode 1 of our Spring Boot tutorial series. So we will run the application and then try and see whether it will work. So remember the endpoints / and then /greet and then /info. So the application has started successfully. So we go to our application. So this is the first endpoint. Let's add a greet endpoint. So /greet. Okay, so we can see we have that. Welcome to your first Spring Boot application. Then let's try the info endpoint. Info. Yes. So this is episode 1 of our Spring Boot tutorial series. So congratulations. We've finally successfully completed episode 1 of our Spring Boot series. Now let's recap what we accomplished. So our key achievements today: we were able to set up a complete Spring Boot development environment. We created our first Spring Boot project using Spring Initializer. We understood the project structure and then key features, key files. We learned about Spring Boot annotation and its components. We built a first REST controller with multiple endpoints. And then we successfully ran and tested the application, and it worked successfully. Now, what are the key concepts you mastered today? So you learned about the Spring Boot's convention over configuration philosophy. You understood auto configuration benefits. Then you understood the basic project structure of Spring Boot. You created a REST controller. So now you know how to create a REST controller. And then you found out multiple ways. There are multiple ways to run your Spring Boot application. So what's next? Now in episode 2, we will dive into the understanding of inversion of control, which is the foundation of Spring framework. So you will learn how Spring manages object creation and then dependencies, setting the stage for more advanced topic. So thank you for joining me today in this exciting Spring Boot series. Leave any comments or issues you had in the comment section, and then I'll try to see how best we can help. Also, don't forget to like, to share, and then subscribe to this channel for more on this complete Spring Boot series. Thank you once again. Happy coding, and I'll see you in episode 2.